Hello, I'm Michael Veitch and welcome to a new series of Sunday Arts. We're carrying on the theme, our next story is about a young Melbourne artist that Business Review Weekly's top 100 collectors have identified as hot property. Her name is Kate Rohde and some might classify her style as, well, a little eccentric.
When people look at my work, I imagine that they are seeing something like a kind of crazy natural history museum / Baroque palace. I was really inspired after visiting the Vienna Natural History Museum and also Versailles in France. It really inspired me to sort of make these incredibly opulent, decadent animals and in this environment to sort of house it in. Initially I got started drawing and painting animals. Often when I was driving home I'd see a possum or a bird that had been hit by a car but was still quite intact. So I'd collect it and take it home with ideas that I would actually try and taxidermy it myself. But I always got a bit squeamish and I was worried that I'd just really mangle the animals. So in the end, I just, I'd do some drawings and paintings and then I'd bury the animals when I was finished with them. A few years ago, my parents were shopping in a second-hand bookshop and they gave me a book on DIY taxidermy that was from the 1950s. And I used this book and the instructions that it gave on how to make forms for animals to make my own fake animals. I describe myself as a real animal lover, and I think part of the reason that I could never taxidermy the animals myself was that they looked so peaceful and quiet in their death that I didn't want to disturb that state. All the materials I use in these works are man-made, and it's very important that they don't have any actual natural fibres in them, because it's all about recreating nature via the products of modern society. This is one of my favourite furs. It's called Yeti. I find inspiration in lots of sources. National Geographic magazine, I've collected thousands of them over the years, and I've always really loved Victorian era museum dioramas and older style dioramas and the kind of portrayal of a sort of perfect nature and everything. It's the ideal, you know, like if you would go out into nature you sort of never see that. My work's heavily influenced by the Baroque and Rococo art movements, and the main thing that attracted me to this was that many of the motifs in these periods were drawn from flora and fauna sources. The work I made recently was a mink that was studded with rubies, and this was based on a fur coat I saw in Los Angeles that had little rhinestones studded all through the real fur. So I tried to imagine like this fur coat as an animal in real life. I think these animals, they exist in a sort of fantasy world. I always imagine that the nature should be more interesting. It's a bit brown and bland, so I want it to be more exciting and colourful.
I'll never look at roadkill in quite the same way.